friends, we talk about forgiveness often on this channel. I'm a big advocate for it, and sometimes I have been criticized for that opinion. Specifically, some people have said that there are some things that are just unforgivable. Listen, I don't disagree. There are some things where the disrespect was just too damn much, and if you're still upset and mad about it, well, you're well within your right to be. But I think some people intermingle the definitions of forgiving, forgetting, and reconnecting. So let's talk about that in this week's video, and I will make my case for why I think forgiveness is so important. When someone deeply hurts you, especially when it's someone you really care about, you can experience some pretty complicated emotions about it. Anger, betrayal, sadness, bitterness, and resentment, amongst others. These are all perfectly normal to have, and while they are all slightly different, they tend to have one common denominator: pain. Now, pain is uncomfortable to feel. Nobody enjoys it or is out here saying, "Oh yay, more pain, give it to me." So our minds will try to get rid of it, and when we feel it, and for many, many people, this pain and sadness naturally morphs into anger. Sometimes it happens over time. Sometimes you will go back and forth between pain and anger, whatever the case. There is undeniably a link between those two emotions. So when someone betrays us or does us dirty in some way, the pain from that experience stays with us. And usually the passage of time and allowing ourselves to feel the feelings, the pain begins to be less omnipresent. It can begin to feel less raw. You might even get a sincere apology from that person, which helps you let some of that pain go. You can call it moving on or getting over it, and that works for most things that we experience. But for the big ticket items, the big betrayals, the big heartbreaks, those can take more than just a few words of apology or the passage of time. Those tend to be the things we hang on to, that we don't forgive, that we hold grudges over. And the thing with doing that is when you hold on to what the person did, you are effectively chaining yourself to that act by hanging on to that pain and keeping it in a place of prominence in your mind. You can end up being the person who pays the most dearly for what someone else did. When you dwell on hurtful things and situations, you allow resentments to plant its roots. You allow negative feelings to crowd out everything else. You can find yourself completely swallowed with a feeling of injustice or bitterness. This is especially the case when you are still in some form of contact with that person who hurt you so deeply. When you see them out there living their life, doing their thing, seemingly unconcerned with the fact that they destroyed you emotionally and left you with this pain. That is not only a very hard pill to swallow, but it's a very bitter one too. And it's very easy to get caught up in those negative emotions and let them stay. The truth is that you aren't inside their minds, so you don't really know how they feel about what they did. Maybe they are sorry and feel terrible about it, even if they haven't told you that. Personally, I think that's a terrible way to handle things when you hurt someone. You should adult the hell up and say you're sorry. It's really not that hard. Or maybe they really don't care. Maybe they will never admit what a real shitbag they were to you. Maybe they don't think about you at all and have just burned that bridge completely. Whatever the case, they aren't sitting around moping about it, most likely. They aren't letting what they did to you stop them from what they want to do, whether it be dating someone else or moving forward with something they squeezed you out of, or whatever the situation is. Here's a hard truth about people. Some of them will never actually be sorry, sometimes even after they've said those words. They will never truly admit wrongdoing. They will never stop to think about what the repercussions of their actions do to others. They do not care. But you are over here hanging on to that anger and that resentment, and that is no doubt going to stop you from moving forward in a healthy way and allowing yourself to be happy and fulfilled and unencumbered by their selfishness or betrayal or whatever it is they did to you. And friends, they do not deserve to have that kind of power over your life and your decisions. And here is where I think we really need to think about what the word forgiveness means and what it means to us specifically. Forgiving someone is not at all excusing what that person did. That behavior was wrong, is still wrong, and will always be wrong. You do not have to pretend that the hurt didn't happen. You are never going to forget it either. Forgiveness means you are choosing to no longer carry that wound in the same way. You are choosing you over them, as you should. You are choosing to make an internal shift to put those feelings over there somewhere, not here in the way of your happiness, not here in the way of your moving on to a different scenario where that person is not over here in the way of your healing. It doesn't matter if they've earned that forgiveness because we aren't doing it for them. We are doing it for ourselves, to lighten our load. Just like they didn't care about you, that they betrayed you, you aren't going to care about them either. That forgiveness is a safety valve of sorts that lets out that anger and those other feelings that we have inside of us. Once we do, here's what actually happens. We sever our connection to that person's bad behavior. It sets us free from where it no longer has power over us. And that's where you really want to be, because that is what's best for you. And look, if you are watching this and you are really struggling to forgive someone, don't be hard on yourself, because we all go through this. It can certainly take time to heal. There's not a set deadline on when you feel ready to set down a heavy bag like that. But I think when we see forgiving and forgetting as two vastly different things, because they are, it's really helpful in navigating our interpersonal relationships. So that brings us to the last part of the message, reconnection. Sometimes people feel like this stage is par for the course when they have been forgiven, which is why sometimes they will say stupid things like this. Hey, I said I'm sorry and you said it's okay. It's been 6 months or whatever, so now can we be friends again? Listen, reconnection is optional in every situation where someone has wronged you. And since it's optional, that means you do not have to do it. You do not owe that person that. You do not owe them anything, not even forgiveness. But if you were gracious enough to give it, then they should be happy with that and not push for more, especially if you are not willing to give it. Remember that forgiveness doesn't mean that behavior wasn't wrong, as we said before. You aren't letting them off the hook. So if they make those assumptions, you need to make sure that you very clearly assert that boundary. And don't be worried about hurting their feelings about it, because they surely weren't thinking about yours when they did what they did. Reconnection means that you have to trust that person again, and that you have to have some kind of confidence that they won't betray you again. And with some people, you just cannot go there. Let's be honest. Reconnecting with them only serves to give them more opportunities to disappoint you, because they haven't changed or learned a thing from the whole experience, and it shows. And look, if you're sitting on the fence about whether or not you want to reconnect with someone, ask yourself some important questions, like, do I need this person in my life? Do they deserve to be in my life? Are they really sorry? And sadly, you kind of have to ask this too, am I prepared to deal with all of this again should they betray my trust again? Giving people another chance is not always a mistake, but it is really important that they understand the value of it. And that they also understand that it's not owed or promised or guaranteed, regardless if you forgave them or not. So now that I have elaborated on why I think forgiveness is important, I hope that if you're struggling with this right now, you do one thing. Put yourself first. Ahead of the person who wronged you, ahead of their misdeeds, ahead of their betrayal, ahead of their lack of a real apology, if you even got one. What do you need the most to move forward? Please don't say closure. That's a myth. We did a video about this topic, I think, last February or so. We end up reopening way too many doors to toxic people, saying that it's foreclosure, when we really should have nailed that sucker shut. You don't need to know why someone did something, friends. They did it. The end. Anyway, figure out what you need to do to move past the feelings of anger and hurt that this person who you are struggling to forgive has caused, and then give that to yourself. Feel the feelings, process the anger, throw away the reminders, sever the connection to them completely if that's what it takes. Either way, stop giving the people who hurt you the power to make your decisions and control your well-being and your happiness. Snatch that back from them. Now. And to put it simply, F them. They lost their chance to be important in your life. You don't have to reconnect with them. It is time for you to put what is best for you front and center. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.